Welcome to the Low Country Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Bellott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Kenny and Jake. Kenny and Jake run Mental Alchemy, which is an AI consulting and software development firm founded in Charleston, South Carolina. They're a focused two-person team. They do hands-on work and affordable AI integration that larger firms simply cannot match. Welcome, Kenny and Jake. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Hey,
Yes,
it's
sir.
a pleasure.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. So, you guys were telling me before we got started, you got a lot of stuff going on. So lay it out for me. You're shifting and changing and moving and shaking. So give me a lay down of everything.
The short version is we've been working on a new product called LOOM AI, and it's basically a software system or a platform that is meant to help developers understand software better. Not just developers, it could help anyone. It could help a general consumer. It could help an investor, CEOs at companies that don't really understand software, because traditionally, anytime somebody tried to view software, you'd be looking at like 2D graphs, or you'd be looking at complicated programs like VS Code with who knows how many different files, and there could be tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and it could just be really overwhelming and confusing. Well, Jake and I found a way to scan pre-existing software systems and build a database that we could project into a 3D environment that's kind of like a space simulator, like think No Man's Sky, when you're flying around from like moons and planets. Well, inside of the system that we built, you can actually scan your system and you can project it into this 3D simulation, and you could actually fly up to your files and they look like stars.
Nice.
And then hovering around your files, you're going to find classes, and then classes, they'll have methods hovering around them and functions hovering around them. And needless to say, we just found this really interesting way to make a 3D navigatable system to where people can explore their code base and they can look at it. And what's really cool is, people traditionally are visually based learners. So being able to look at your code like this, it makes it a lot easier for people to understand how their files and how their components work together, because similar systems and components are going to be clustered in groups, and then different systems are going to be spaced apart. But we're developing this unique system called Flow Trace, where you can select any individual component, like be it a file or a class or a method, and you'll see lines that arc out from it and connect to other components that it talks to. So like in the software world, we have these things called calls. So like one function may call another or be called by another function. Right. So we found a way to like track. We basically built a really unique type of scanner that's whole purpose is to crawl your files, kind of like a web crawler, and track, and just like a cartographer of code. And it just tracks everything it finds, and it documents exactly what it sees, exactly where it sees it, no matter how deeply it's nested. And then it passes it over to a registry system that builds a database. And then from there, you can project it into 3D space, and you can fly around, and you could see, like, you can click on a specific method and you could see that it might have 700 different things calling it. And now you can understand, like, hey, if I change this one method right here, 702 different things are going to be impacted by it. And it also allows you to identify things called race conditions, because like sometimes there might be multiple different functions or files that are trying to edit the same piece of data at the same time. Right. And the ultimate state that you end up with is going to be determined by which one gets there first and which one gets there last. And think about it, if you, me, and Jake were all trying to solve a math problem, and even if we were all going to solve it the right way, you may use a different formula than Jake does, and then I do, and you may start your formula and then Jake begins his after your formulas already began. Well, now what he's doing is no longer the same because you've altered it, and now you end up with something crazy that doesn't make sense. Right. Well, Dataverse can help you visually identify that.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's so to me, it's like a simplified version of what you're saying. Sounds like the visual thesaurus. I think maybe you've seen that. A lot of people have seen that, where you can kind of fly around and it connects all the words together and you can see how it kind of links to different things. And,
Mm-hmm.
like you were talking about the editing thing, it's like, I do a lot of document editing and I work with other people. If two people are trying to edit the same sentence at the same time, it's chaos. It's horrible. And it sounds like a great idea. It's like, we'll work together and edit this document together. It becomes a problem, especially the more people get involved. So I'm really excited about this because, my little website for my company, I know I've got like, let's just say 10 different files that either they give HTML code or there's some sort of JavaScript or some sort of Python or stuff. Most of that's generated by AI. I don't understand every bit of it. I know what the code does, but I don't understand all the syntax. But I do know when I change one thing, it has a ripple effect across all the other pieces. And oftentimes I spend a lot of time trying to track down what happened when I changed this thing. Why is this other thing not working? And so, what you're saying, especially when you get really large pieces of a code where you've got thousands and hundreds of thousands of lines, and some of it's person generated, some of it may be AI generated. How do you navigate that? And I think that's a problem that's people are facing all over the world. Who are you guys kind of working with right now, or where are you kind of aiming your business for right now?
Honestly, what we're building can target everybody in the world. If you want to be truthful, if you're somebody that develops software, what you were just describing is exactly the pain point that we built Loom to answer. We develop a lot of software largely with AI, and we've developed methodologies that we actually share for free on our website. You're welcome to go check them out yourself, that teach people to program with AI in a more controlled fashion that's not so chaotic. As far as like you were talking about how you'll change one thing and then it impacts other things in the system. So two aspects to Loom. One thing is called Code Explorer, and the Dataverse we were telling you about, which is, it's like the eye candy that's visually appealing to the system, and it looks really cool, and it's great that we figured out how to do it. But the more important thing is how we can track the way components connect. Right. And inside Code Explorer, you don't even have to use the Dataverse. You could just load the Code Explorer, and it's like a user interface designed for developers, and you have like an aside that's on the left-hand part of the screen, and it breaks down your file tree and your, the classes and functions that are in them, and you can select anything over there, and then you have a center info panel, and then whatever you select in the left aside pops up in the info panel in the center, and you can see what it's called, what file it's in, what line it starts on, how many lines of code it is. It gives you like a health score rating. But what's really useful for what you said is it has a relationships tab, and when you click on the relationships tab, it reveals all the different things that interact with this component. So if you're going to change it, instead of you being like, hey GPT, help me update this function because I'm trying to make this happen, you could hit copy on this relationships tab and you could share it with GPT, and now GPT is going to have the context to update your code, because it's going to say, hey, this one piece of code is interacting with all of these different things, and every one of them expect it to be a string, so I have to make sure that it stays a string. Otherwise, you just tell GPT to update it, and it might decide that the other part of your system thinks it's an integer, and now your code isn't working anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's like, and the other thing is like, this, I'm getting a little geeky here, but this like drives me crazy. It's like certain pieces of code, especially when you're connecting a lot of different things, it only works with a certain version. Like I use a software called FreeCAD. It's a computer-aided design thing that sits on my server. Well, my code only works with a certain version of FreeCAD. I can't use the latest version because these other pieces of code only work with that. They're not compatible. That's another issue that comes in when you start connecting things together. It's like, how do you track compatibility across different components that you may not have coded yourself? You may be bringing into your system, using it as a free version or open source version, I guess is the right way to say it. That's another thing that's been really challenging, and I imagine a lot of people kind of trying to struggle with that are either building an app or a website or whatever it may be. And how do you manage all that? And the more you go, the more complicated it gets, right? And it's like,
right.
So this is your guys' stuff kind of like focused toward that also, or even more than that?
Well, here's the stark reality. You can't, if you don't have access to somebody else's code base, you can't scan it. But if you already had functional code that was interacting with their code base, you can use that as a template. So, for example, if we could scan your current form of your software right now, and we could use Loom to document like how it interfaces with this other system, how your API is set up.
Right.
This could be kind of complicated to explain because the reality is there's so many different programming languages, and even within any given language, there's so many people that program within that language, and there's just so many different ways that you can do things. I mean, part of what Loom was, this is kind of a random rabbit hole here, but part of what Loom was built to do is it has a ghost hunter feature that's built in it, so it can find functions that are hidden within functions. So let's say you could have like functions from like A to Z, and they may just do normal, predictable, logical things. But if function X and then P and then Z and then D and then A and then Y occur in a row, all of a sudden, like something that you didn't know was hidden inside your software occurs. Well, Ghost Hunter is meant to find things like that. And that's part of what our registry system tracks. But in the aspect of how it does that, it does this by documenting, how things are interacting with one another and the format that they receive and send data in. That way, if we see how your component is already interfacing with this pre-existing system, then whenever we update it, we can just make sure that we apply that pre-existing template to your new piece. But now if they go and they update their system, then that's just a compatibility thing. You're going to have to understand what they've changed in their system and what it expects versus what yours does.
Cool. That's really cool. So when someone uses like your software you've built, how do they go about like kind of implementing? Because so I'll give you an example. I'm kind of wandering around here, but a lot of times a company's software is part of their intellectual property, their IP, and it's like, okay, do I really want to let your software in and touch my IP, which is my code, or how do I make sure that I'm not going to lose anything in the process? How does a company kind of work with you in that kind of respect?
You want to answer?
Oh, you go ahead, take it.
So the short version is we've actually built a siloed system. You don't have to plug into any networks. You don't have to plug into anything. We'll give you API access. Basically, whenever you turn our system on, it'll just send out an API ping to ours to make sure that what you have is accurate. And as long as your API gets the good signal back, as long as the software we give you receives the positive feedback from our system that your API key is currently authenticated, then it'll just let yours turn on. But it's completely closed source. We're developing what's known as air gap code. It doesn't have to be plugged into any networks or anything else to function. So your code bases and IP are entirely yours and safe.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, the air gap is it's an old security term. I haven't heard that in a long time. Anybody that's worked in the security world, putting out cables and stuff, they know about this idea of an air gap because you needed a certain distance between cables so the electromagnetic signals didn't leak from one to the other. But yes, fancy words there. So, all right. So you guys are doing that. What else is going on? Is that your major push right now? And are you working mainly with folks in the Charleston area? Or are you kind of worldwide? How are you kind of approaching these things?
Well, right now we're primarily trying to push this product.
Okay.
Number one, first and foremost, we've been working really hard. Like you said, it's our baby.
Yep.
We are working with some people in the Charleston area, people that we've gotten to connect and meet with at tech meets and such like that. Had quite a few meetings. Right now, we're looking at staying local, but we aren't against the idea of pushing forward. We have had meetings with people in other countries already interested in things.
Right.
But for right now, we're just trying to push locally and work on our connections that we have. We're still young at this. We're still a startup.
Right. Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. Are you guys are you going to be doing like any demos? Because I would love to see, like, I'm sure folks out there would love to see, like, hey, I want to fly through some code. It sounds crazy, but I would like to see what this looks like.
Yes, we are planning on putting out a couple demos. We will have a version of Loom AI for people to try out certain features for free.
Okay.
Like Kenny said, we also have the scanner that is free on the website.
Nice.
Yeah, apart from that, shoot, anything to add?
So actually, we're not going to pretend that our product is fully polished right now. We're more in an alpha testing phase.
Okay.
So if you're interested in flying through your code base, we will very soon be releasing the alpha to people. I mean, there'll have to be an NDA that you'll have to sign.
Right.
But you could fly through your own code base. You can scan up to 50 files for free, and you could build a database, and you could explore them and interact with your own code, and just all that we ask in return is that you give us feedback on the software, the experience that you had, the features that you do and don't like, and we'll just go from there. And then if you decide you want to keep using it after that, it'll be roughly $20 to $30 a month, depending on the feedback we get from our test groups.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you about one more feature, because this is a pain point for me too. So I use like a lot of folks, I use some AI to help with certain coding, website stuff. Does your system include that? Or is it like you can find where things are, you can see how things are connected, but okay, when I go to change something, does your system help me change it in a better way? Or do I still need to interface with, either somebody who knows something or an AI that tells me, okay, change this thing?
So this is actually built to be a context layer in between the AI and the developer, if you want me to be honest. I mean, it's also something that you could have between like an investor and a developer too, because, Dataverse alone allows a investor or a business leader to come through, and they could fly through a system. They could be like, why are these purple? Purple means they're disconnected from the rest of the system. They're like, why is this red?
Oh, cool.
That means something's wrong. Why is it yellow? That means it's a high traffic area.
Right.
So without them having to have a background in computer science, they could visually look at the system, and they could take things to board meetings that they could explain. And that's one benefit. Sorry, my rabbit hole kind of made me lose track of how I was supposed to respond to that.
That's okay.
What was your original question one more time, just to make sure I don't continue rabbit holing?
No, you were right on it. So you were right over the target, which is basically your system is a Dataverse gives you that interface to the AI. You can still use your AI as far as like, okay, what things have changed, but it lets you visualize and see what impact that change is going to happen. Is the way I understand.
You just reminded me of what I forgot I was going to say. So, have you ever worked with Cursor before?
No, I haven't personally.
Okay, well, there's a number of apps in the world that are like Cursor that like help developers and users interact with AI. And basically they have a system of like all of these different things. Like, I actually don't even know how much I should say in regard to this. So I'm trying to measure how I answer this, because I don't want to get myself in trouble. I don't know what is okay or not okay to say, but needless to say, systems like that have ways of influencing the prompts that you as a user give to AI that helps the AI behave in a more specific way to what you're trying to do. Like, here's what I can say that won't touch up against other people's proprietary technologies. Think of it like this. Artificial intelligence, large language models in specific, are kind of like random number generators, but they're with words instead.
Right.
And they basically pattern match. So if you were to ask an AI to tell you a poem, it could randomly generate about a poem about anything that is, in its database, which is monstrous by this point.
Right.
But if you were to ask it to tell you about Tesla or Edgar Allan Poe, and then you asked it to write a poem, it would be very different. Likewise, if you were to ask the AI right now, like, hey, I want you to code code a jumping feature for Mario in the game I'm building, it's going to randomly generate the code for that. And maybe it's going to give you a masterpiece, or maybe it's going to give you like some hack job of code. You don't really know. You're just rolling the dice. But and I may be saying this guy's name wrong, but there was a French coder. He's actually one of the more famous French coders in the world from anywhere. Yeah. I believe his name is pronounced Fabrice Ballard.
Okay.
But anyways, if
I
you
thought
tell
you were
the
going to
AI,
say Pascal, because that's old school.
no, I wasn't going that far. But needless to say, if you tell GPT, like, hey, when you code this jump feature for Mario in my game, I want you to code like Fabrice Ballard would.
Oh, wow.
Instead, it's going to give you a dramatically different output. Just like if you were like, hey, write a scene about a kid arguing with his mom, Chat GPT is going to do whatever. But if you tell it to write it like Stephen King, it's going to do it in a specific way.
Yeah.
And, this is kind of how you guide it. So when you learn, how the AIs think and how they pattern match, you can feed them snippets of what you want it to do to get them behave in a specific way.
Yeah.
And that's what Loom and similar technologies help people do, is it acts as that context layer between you and the AI, so you can keep the AI on track. Like, for example, I've been coding with AI a number of times and it randomly makes a new file I didn't ask it to make.
Right. Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it was Elon or somebody else who was saying, like, one of the new jobs that you could say is probably already out there right now is basically being a prompt engineer. And it sounds like, your thing is kind of helping people give the AI a prompt where you'll get a better outcome than just letting it do its thing on its own, which is awesome. That's a great use, because almost everybody's using AI in some way or another, especially if you're doing anything on the internet. So, yeah, that's really cool. So you guys, how have you always been here in Charleston? Are you like natives? How did you guys get together?
Well, we met in high school, about 15, 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
We're in our 40s now, but yeah, we've known each other all that time, and
we used to do music and beat each other up. We used to do martial arts together. So
That's awesome.
And worked at a pizza place.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, about a year and a half ago, we just decided to try something different.
Yeah.
Taught ourselves how to code, and tried making our AI, which we still are working on. It's on the back burner for the moment, but
That's really cool.
yeah, we got a bunch of projects and just finally, I think, found our way where
Yeah.
we're going.
Yeah.
So
Believe it or not, we actually built Loom because we're building our own AGI system, and Loom is meant to help us troubleshoot. Now, I know AGI is a really big word, and a lot of people might have some thoughts, questions, and reservations towards that, and we'd be welcome to discuss it whenever. But we definitely have some theories for how people could achieve true AGI in the world, and we'll be coming forward with some of those papers in the near future.
Really? So tell everybody, what does AGI stand for?
Artificial General Intelligence.
Okay. So that's, you see this a lot on, mainly from Elon, but from others, like on X, or what used to be Twitter. They're talking about the singularity, which is another way of basically saying, hey, we're going to achieve real intelligence, real artificial humanity, in a sense, in AI at some point in the very near future. And that's a exciting thing, and for a lot of people, a very scary thing. And so I think a lot of people would be very interested in hearing what you guys have to say about AGI. More voices on this subject are always welcome. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. You should come back and talk to us about that sometime.
Definitely.
So you guys are starting out. You're going through the bumps and bruises of a startup. What advice do you have for other entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area?
Don't spread yourself too thin, and don't hire too many people if you don't need them.
Yeah, well, basically, we tried to bring on a lot of people too early before we even really had fully defined what we were doing and who we were. And then what we were trying to do just got kind of confused. We're trying to do too many things at once. But, I'll say one of the best things that I will tell anybody who's trying to start a business is take advantage of the networking groups that are around Charleston.
Absolutely.
There's so many groups that meet all over the place, not just in Charleston, but all of the cities surrounding Charleston.
Right.
And they're related to all different kinds of organizations. They have people from every business aspect you can imagine. Like, you never know who you're going to meet there. You can meet people that do construction, that do insurance, that do human resources. There's just a lot of people out there that you can tap into that may be interested in what you're doing, or may have some type of service that can support what you're doing to help make you successful. And you're never going to know unless you put yourself out there and show up at some of these meetings.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, I've been to a few of them. I know a lot of people go to I think it's called Tech After 5. There's a Million Cups.
Yeah.
There's, Chucktown Startups, which I'm part of. They have different events too, and they keep track of a lot of the other events. So yeah, I think you just never know who you'll meet. There's a lot of great and interesting people around Charleston, so it never hurts to go to one of these.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, we gave a display at a Charleston Hacks event about a week ago, and we were approached by a number of people after they saw Dataverse. They saw us flying around inside of our code base and were really intrigued. And we've been approached by investors, businesses, organizations, and just random people wanting to be a part of building it and taking it to the next level. Some of them are salespeople. Some of them are like, I guess you'd say business relations type people. But either way, it's just cool to work so hard on something and then to go share it with people and receive such positive feedback. It's really validating and humbling.
So definitely networking.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's great talking to you guys today. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks for having us. If anyone's interested in contacting us, we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Nice.
We have loomai.io as well, and mentalalchemy.io.com.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out, again, that would be www.loomai.io, or you could go to mentalalchemy.io.
Awesome.
And again, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Appreciate it. Come back again sometime.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Low Country Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Ballott, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of low country innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.